We've got a quick update to this interview with Coach Danielle. At the time of the interview, she was working with Formula Running Company in Arlington, Virginia. Unfortunately, FRC closed during COVID and she no longer works there. You can find Coach D on Instagram at Run with Coach D.
All right, we are with Danielle Hirt, Coach D from Formula Running Center in Clarendon, which is Arlington. Thank you so much for coming on. We've not actually met in person, so it's nice to finally
Yes,
meet you.
I've referred plenty of clients and athletes to you though, so I mean, I feel like I
Well,
know
thank
you.
you. I appreciate that. So I invited Coach D on just first of all to tell us kind of a little bit about what FRC is and then kind of what supports are available for moms as they're trying to get back, because especially right now in COVID, like we can't necessarily do all these things on our own. And it's nice to have help with people that have gotten other women back to running before. So maybe we can start with that is like,
Yeah.
first of all, what is Formula Running Center and what do you do there? And then why do women, specifically moms, come to FRC?
Awesome. So Formula Running Center, also known as FRC, is a treadmill-based studio in Clarendon. And we have everything from treadmill classes to strength classes to yoga and conditioning classes. We also have an entire suite of recovery services. So you have cryotherapy, we have the Normatec sleeves, we have a sauna, we have an ice bath. So we really are the home for runners. And that's one of the reasons that I was drawn there. I'm a runner. I'm an endurance athlete. The marathon is, I always joke, my race of choice, which people are like, you run a marathon? Yeah, it's fun. And so I'm a coach. So I'm one of our coaches that will actually instruct the classes. So I put together the intervals that you run at. I put together the strength programming. I also lead our distance program. So anyone who is learning to run a marathon or your first time running a half, I do a lot of our distance planning. So why a lot of women come to FRC? So we have a lot of people that come in that are new to running. We
Yeah.
love those we love those athletes that have run in the past and kind of know what to do, but they just come really to keep themselves motivated, keep themselves going. But I truly love when women walk through the door and say, I am not a really great runner. Like, what do I do? How do we use the treadmill? What's this? How do I rate my pace? What does this mean? But a lot of people come in just because there's such a wealth of knowledge with all the coaches. So all of the coaching staff, we're all runners. We're all endurance athletes in some capacity. We have an Ironman, we have an Olympian on staff. We have someone like myself who's a marathoner. We have people that teach group exercise, personal trainers. We're all really qualified and really knowledgeable when it comes to not just running, but the conditioning segment. So yeah, we could tell you how to run all day, but at the same time, we want to tell you what muscles you need to use in order to run efficiently. So
Yeah.
I would really just say that a lot of people come to us, especially women, knowing they're really qualified staff and they can ask us any questions they have.
That's awesome. I think running for moms, especially now with COVID, it's like the easiest thing to do. We're like, all right, I don't really need much equipment. I can go out, I can run. But I mean, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, if you're going to run, you also need to do this other extra stuff as well. And moms don't realize, we could use a little bit more strengthening. And let's just be honest, most runners could use more strengthening. So
Yes,
that's
pick up
awesome
the
that you guys
heavy
do that.
things. Yes.
Yeah.
I always tell
No,
people, I'm like, yeah,
runners like to run. We don't like to do other things, right?
I didn't discover, so personally, I didn't find strength training until maybe 3 or 4 years into my running. At the time, so I've been a group exercise instructor for over 10 years. I've taught kickboxing, I've taught boot camps, but I never really took the time to get to know what muscles make me run better. And the
Yeah.
moment that kind of clicked, I started getting injured less often. I
Yeah.
always thought, oh, being a runner, I'm going to have runner's knee. That's just how it is. No, it's not.
Absolutely.
You
Yeah.
don't,
I
yeah.
started load training about 4 years ago. I started CrossFit and I'd had FAI surgery like 14 years ago. And so adding load and doing strength training actually A, made my pain better, and B, made me faster, go figure. So it doesn't mean that you
Mhm.
need to run more. You just need to be smarter about your workouts.
Yes, yes,
Cool.
exactly.
All right. So, what are two of the most common questions women who come into FRC have as far as like trying to either get back to running again or, like you said, even get started?
So the number one question that I always get is, I don't think I can run the whole class. What do you think I should still come?
Yeah.
I always get that. So one of our token classes, our trademark classes, is the FRC Formula Run class. It's an hour-long running class. You're on the tread anywhere between 45 and 52 minutes, kind of depending on the coach and the dynamic warm-up and the cool down. So to some people, that time frame is really intimidating. If you've never run before and you're like, I'm going to run on the treadmill for 45 minutes,
Well,
what?
I'm a
Uh,
klutz too on a treadmill like that.
Well, I will say we have the best treadmills in the area. We have wood-made
Awesome.
treadmills. They are hands down. Mike Wardian did, and someone can correct me. I know I'll be wrong. He did like an ultra marathon on it. I
I
think he was
did.
on it for like 7 or 8 hours, something crazy.
Yes, I did
Um,
do that.
yeah, so we have the best treadmills. So when you're talking about joint impact, having enough space, we have plenty of room in the studio. Everyone's spaced out. There's, we're very the COVID regulations.
You guys
But
have
with
been
that,
awesome with that for sure.
thank you. With that, I always tell people you don't have to run the whole class. So I love when new athletes, and I refer to everybody as an athlete because we are all inside. You are an athlete. You are running. You're an athlete. So I tell every athlete when they come in, tell the coach, it's my first class. I haven't ran before. I don't know what to do. They'll tell you what miles per hour to hit on the tread. They'll tell you run at that 4.0, 4.5, or walk at a 3. We offer those options. So just be vocal about it and don't feel shy. We've all been there. I joke with a lot of my clients, like I was a first time 5Ker. I ran my first 5K in 2011, and I will never forget crossing the finish line and going directly to Dunkin' Donuts. I lived in the Northeast, so there was no Starbucks. Right to Dunkin' Donuts. And I was like, I ran a 5K.
Oh
I'm gonna
yeah.
be I'm gonna treat myself. So I remember that
Absolutely.
feeling, and I remember having to stop and walk in that 5K, and that's okay. Walking actually helps us go longer
Yeah.
and helps us to reduce the amount of impact that we're putting on our bodies. So I highly encourage, even for seasoned athletes like myself, do a run walk every now and then just to give your body that reprieve. So that's usually the number one answer or number one question that I get. And then the other question is, okay, well, what class should I start with?
Yeah.
And typically I would refer someone to like a tread and train. That is half of the class on the treadmill and then the other half on the training floor. So doing weightlifting. And that's kind of to that point that we just talked about, right? Adding load, learning how to do simplistic movements. And everyone thinks that weight training has to be super complex and you have to do, squat, clean, snatch, blah, 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 all these things. And it's like bicep curls and squats. You're going to be just fine. So those would be probably the most common questions that I get.
That's awesome. I love that. Anytime you get load involved, I'm a huge fan.
Yes.
Love it. All right. And then for women who want help, what advice do you give them about, how to find support? So if they're local, obviously they have you as an option. I have people that are going to watch this that are all over the country, all over the world. Like, how do you find the right support?
So the very first thing is just having patience with that. I know we all run short on it, especially in this time, but have patience with coming back and reach out to a friend or reach out to, there's tons of online coaches. FRC, we do online coaching as well. But make sure that if you do go into a studio, ask the questions. Make sure the person who's talking to you isn't just reading out of a textbook, isn't just giving you a response of something they saw on Instagram. Unfortunately, social media has done good and bad for our business. It's done good and bad. But make sure the person who asks the hard questions, and if they get uncomfortable, talking to you about if they don't ask you how was your birth, to me, I'm like, that person's not ready to talk to you. Like they need to know the details. As a personal trainer, every woman I speak with, I want to hear not necessarily every detail of your birth story, but I need to know, like, did something not go the way it was? Did the epidural, did you have multiple times with something happening? That helps me then program for what I need for you going forward.
Yeah.
So I would say ask questions. Don't be afraid, and ask your pelvic floor doctor, ask your PT for referrals in the area. They probably know some personal trainers that know how to do some of this stuff.
Yep.
I actually got, I have a client right now I'm working with, and she actually said, she goes, my PT doctor loves you. Can I have your cards? Because like I need to give them to her because you understand what's happening.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's the best compliment. Thank you. But make sure you find somebody, finding somebody that has corrective exercise knowledge or something like that, because it's not a one size fits all. So that would be my first recommendation. Obviously, having patience is my other one, is that you're not going to be back to where you were. And you might not ever, but that's okay because you're in a new journey of life. Every part of our life is a different phase. And if we constantly compare to what we were, we'll never embrace who we are. And I always have to remind my clients, you're in a new stage and it's okay. It's okay for that workout to suck. There's going to be times it's not going to feel good. And you're going to assess it and say, does it not feel good because I'm uncomfortable and I'm growing? Or does it not feel good because I'm not ready to go there? And just because your friend is ready to go there, maybe you and your best friend had your babies at the same time and she's progressing faster than you. It's not a race. You're both going to be in this journey and, lean on each other for support. And if she's not willing to give you that support, you might not be best friends and you might be changing lives. But find people that are willing to love you where you're at and love yourself where you're at. I think that's sometimes the toughest part for moms that I've seen. And, we were briefly chatting about this, that, I don't have any kids, but I have a lot of friends that have kids. And so a lot of times people will tell me, Danielle, how do you know this? If you don't have any kids, like, how do you love yourself where you're at? And I'm like, but I'm growing, I'm in my 30s now and I can't compare what I am in my 30s to what I was in my 20s. So I have to assume, and knowing that I have friends, it's going to be the same. It's going to be a different stage. So just have love with yourself and find someone who's qualified to write a plan and stick to the plan, no matter how advanced you're feeling. If that 2-1 walk's feeling great, but next week coach says do 2-1 again, don't do 3-1.
Yeah.
There's a reason coach is making you do something 2 weeks in a row.
Yeah. You hit on 3 really important things. One, I love the plan. And I think that's lots of times why women, they either fail or they don't meet their expectations, because I think moms, we have so many more logistics. Like, we've got to work around feedings. We've got to work around, maybe the baby didn't sleep last night, or your toddler is, wetting the bed, or, you're eating scraps. There's so many things we have to work around. And so if you don't anticipate that ahead of time and expect things to magically happen, I think you're setting yourself up. That was the first one. The second one, comparison. It's like, again, blessing and curse of social media. I'm like, I am not insta perfect. It's not happening. And then to your point, and this is why I wanted to do this video series, was when you have great resources, like, they tend to find each other and be able to share. Like, we were just talking, the PT group that works with orthopedic issues, that works with you, are friends of mine at Movement X. And I've known them for a long time, and I got connected to you guys. And, if people need like a running friendly gynecologist or OBGYN that's not going to say running is this horrible thing, don't ever do it again, or, we find the people that work in the same way and kind of think about things the same way. So to your point, like, if you don't have anybody like FRC or Coach D where you are, find somebody that resonates with what you're looking for in your area. And the other thing with COVID too, virtual resources, like you said. Like, I've got a client that she's working with, one of my favorite postpartum coaches in Michigan, and my client is here and the trainer's in Michigan, and they've gotten along splendidly. And she's made so many more gains than she did when she was working with a live coach here who didn't recognize her postpartum needs. So those three hits, that's perfect.
Awesome.
Awesome.
That's so awesome.
So if you want to find Coach D and FRC and more information about their offerings, you can find them on Instagram at Formula Running Center. And I think your website is Formula Running Center as well. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.
You do with our postpartum moms, and keep running, because it's still good running weather out there, right?
I'm hoping that COVID took away all of our races, but at least give us great winter running weather. It's all I'm hoping for. Like, just give me that sounds
good. Awesome. Thanks, Danielle.
Thank you.